Hey, it's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. We're back for 2019 with a new show, a new name, and a new guest host. Stay tuned. Hey, people, this is your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. Welcome back to 2019. Well, actually, welcome back to Black Hollywood Live. 2019 started like a week ago, but there's that. I am your host. Scott Menzel is not here today. He is at the Critics Choice Awards, which are happening right now. And we got some new things happening here. So when we left you in 2018, the show was called Black Tomatoes. It is now called The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. And Scott will be back next week, and we have some new things that we will unveil when he gets back. But in the meantime, my guest host today is Miss Brooke Obie.
Thank
what's
you so
up?
much for having me, Carla.
Yes, Miss Shadow and Act.
Yes.
So Brooke and I met at a event for Black Panther, which was almost a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Wow, time flies, huh?
Seriously, that seems like so long ago.
It really does. It doesn't seem like a year.
No.
No, not at all. But that's how we met. And you are a fantabulous film critic in your own right.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. And tell the people about you. I don't want to sit here and give this like fantabulous introduction of you. I'd rather you talk about yourself and tell the people who you are and what you're doing and about your book and where to find it and all that good stuff.
Okay, great. So I am the managing editor for Shadow and Act, the premier digital destination for Black entertainment news covering film, TV, Broadway, and web series. And I'm also...
Oh, I didn't know y'all covered Broadway, too.
Yeah. Oh, we do it all. We do it all.
Well, okay, then.
Yes.
All right, continue.
And so, yeah, I'm really excited because my debut novel, Book of Addis, Cradled Embers, just won the Accra International Book Festival's Independent Writer Award.
Yay!
So that's the third award for my book, and that's just such a big deal.
Okay,
I'm
wait,
just
tell us
really
the other
excited.
two awards.
Okay, so the other two were from 2017. It was I was the 2017 Phyllis Wheatley Book Award winner for first book, and I was a Black Caucus of the American Library Association winner for fiction. So yeah,
wow!
It's
Look
been
at
a
you
good,
ranking up the
exciting run.
accolades.
Yes, yes.
Okay, continue.
That's basically it. That's
it?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna announce that?
That's
She's
those
like,
are the
no,
big things.
she's
Those
like,
are
no,
the
that's
really big
enough.
things. Yeah, that's the big things about me.
Okay, so I wanted to have you in the studio because I just love your opinion. And I remember the last time we saw each other and we got into it, we had this very heated discussion about the green.
Was it heated?
It kind of was.
Okay.
It wasn't heated in a bad way.
Okay.
Like I said,
Passionate.
Yeah, like I said when we were having this discussion, it wasn't heated in a bad way. It was heated in the lane of we were both very passionate about what we were trying to communicate to each other.
Yes.
And eventually, I think there were points that you took away from me and there were points that I took away from you. Probably more the latter than anything else. But the biggest point I took away from you in that discussion was the fact that when we were discussing Green Book and I asked you what were your issues, you were like, if you're going to name a movie The Green Book, it should be about the Green Book. And I was like, ooh. Didn't think about that.
Right.
Did not think about that. So that was a really good point.
Thank you.
But then we did disagree on another point, and it was a point that you mentioned and was the headline of your article concerning that particular film. You want to share what that is?
Yes. So for Shadow and Act, I wrote a review called Green Book is a poorly titled white savior film. And that's sincerely how I feel. We've already discussed how, it's poorly titled because, again, if you're going to call a movie The Green Book, it should be about the Green Book. You walk away from that movie knowing absolutely nothing about the Green Book, about the Greens who created the book, about when it started, about what it was used for, how it saved people's actual lives. And you actually walked away with some kind of misconceptions about what the Green Book was. So that was very disappointing to me to have to sit through that, knowing the amazing history of that book and how integral it was to the Black community, particularly from the 1930s through the 1960s and the Civil Rights era. It was a survival guide for Black people. So, to not have that centered in a movie called Green Book was very, very frustrating. And then, regarding it being a white savior film, I mean, you have this amazing, fascinating Black man, Dr. Donald Shirley, who has all of these doctorate degrees, lives above Carnegie Hall. I mean, just a fascinating character. And there's so much that you could actually do with a character like that. And to have him kind of take a back seat in this movie and have it really be a vehicle for Viggo Mortensen's character, Tony Lip, this average, Italian-American racist white guy. And it's a story about him somehow. It's a story about his redemption and how basically you can, use a Black person's story to kind of, elevate yourself as some kind of a hero and paint yourself as some kind of a hero. I just was not here for it at all.
We had this discussion that night, and I was saying that landscape is probably and more than likely painted in that trajectory because Tony Lip's son
absolutely
is one of the co-writers of the script. So whenever you have somebody writing like that, not all the time, but a lot of times it may or may not be skewed in one direction because that person that's related is one of the writers of the project. So I wholeheartedly think that is the reason why.
Oh, for sure. But the thing is, like, they're not involving the Shirley family in that. It was so intentional.
Now,
because
see, I didn't. When we had that discussion, I don't think I knew that then. And when I did find that out, I was like, So when they won the Golden Globe, it was really interesting because in the press room after the fact, I think that particular question.
I asked that question.
Was that you?
It was me. I asked it. See, that was the thing. I asked the question to both Mahershala Ali when he won. Nick Vallelonga did not come backstage after he won for Best Screenplay. But when they all came back for Best Film or Comedy Film, then I asked the question again. You have your family up there on stage. You're all celebrating this, but the family of Dr. Shirley is not celebrating. And how does that impact how you feel about this award and about
you want to share what the
general.
Answer was and who the person was that gave the answer?
What's so funny? So
I do. That's why I'm asking you to share.
Yes. So all of those men that were up on that stage, you had Vallelonga, you had Peter Farley, the director, you had Brian Curie, the co-writer, all of these other producers. Nobody stepped up to the microphone to answer that question. And so Octavia Spencer, the only Black woman who was involved in the production, she jumps up to the microphone and says, well, I guess I'll fall on the sword here and answer the question. And she basically said that she didn't want to cause the Shirley family any more distress. So she wouldn't say anything directly to the Shirley family. She didn't have a message directly for the Shirley family. She just wanted to say that Dr. Shirley meant a lot to a lot of people. And she really, the working on the movie was, really inspiring for her. And I just thought that was so incredible. And there's even a picture of Peter Farley hiding behind Octavia Spencer. He's like, holding her by the shoulders.
I wish I had known this ahead of time so I could have shown it to the people on YouTube ahead of time. And you guys, for the people that are in YouTube in the chat room, I'm having some problems with Google. They kicked me out of my accounts because somebody, I think, was trying to take over my accounts. So I had to redo the passwords and everything. So I'm not able to chat with y'all in the chat room this week, but I will be able to do it next week. I promise. Okay, go ahead, girl. But I wish I had that picture because that would. A picture says 1,000 words.
It does. And so on Shadow and Act, when we actually wrote up the story after I asked the question in the press room and got Octavia's answer, we used that picture from that evening. So he's holding her by the shoulders and he's like peeking out from behind her, and that's literally it. He's like using her as a shield, and he's been doing it the whole time. I think there was an interview with Vulture where he was asked specifically about some of the scenes that have been really not well received, like having Tony Lip teach this Black man from Florida how to eat fried chicken because supposedly he had never eaten fried chicken before Tony Lip introduced him to fried chicken. And so he was basically like, oh, well, I was really concerned about that scene and how people would perceive it. But then I had Octavia Spencer looking at it in the editing room and she was howling. She just thought it was so funny. And so, then I knew it was okay to put it in there. So basically all the problems with the movie, including naming it Green Book, he said, oh, well, Octavia told me you better name it Green Book.
But don't you kind of feel like they throwing her under the bus just a little bit?
Of course they are. But
like, that's kind of like, come on.
He's definitely throwing her under the bus. He's definitely been using her as a shield. Like, look, this Black person. And Mahershala Ali too, which I find it really incredible that, they both continue to cape for this movie and this production, because they have been thrown repeatedly under the bus, specifically by Peter Farrelly, who's been saying, well, Mahershala read the script and he gave me notes, and so he thought it was great. And Octavia Spencer watched all the playbacks and she thought it was great. And so she said we should name it Green Book, and I wouldn't have named it Green Book if not for Octavia Spencer. So, I mean,
I don't appreciate I kind of don't appreciate the fact that he threw her under the bus. I'm kind of feeling some kind of way about that.
But she also, I mean, I don't know. I think she has to know that that's why she was brought on board. She was brought on board to be the shield.
I don't think Octavia knew that. Octavia's a smart cookie, but let me tell you something about Hollywood. Hollywood is very deceptive.
Yes.
And people are very deceptive in how they communicate with you and how they navigate with you. So I don't think that up front going into the project, she knew that. I think probably somewhere along the way, it became apparent. But probably by the time it became apparent, the film was done, it was in the can, you know what I mean? But I don't think going into this project, I don't think going into that meeting, I don't think having any media, I don't think that having it show up on in the theaters and all that stuff, I think through the whole process, I don't think that she knew. I think by the time she found out, there wasn't anything to do anything they could do about it. I mean, they could do something about it, but yeah, so there's that.
But I think, okay, at the point that you know about it, then, what is your responsibility at that point? You know what I'm saying? So at the point that she knew about it, I didn't ask Octavia Spencer backstage in the press room to answer that question.
This is
true. She volunteered to answer that question, and said she was going to fall on the sword. You know what I'm saying?
This is true, but she's not the only producer of that film. She's not producing the film by herself. So let's.
Why step up to the mic? That's what I'm saying. Like at that point, you stand off to the side.
It's an awkward moment. So somebody got to say something, and if this is the thing, in that moment somebody had to say something, and if no one
should have been, and if no one,
and it should have been, but it wasn't, and if no one had said anything, then something would have been made out of that.
It should have been.
You know what I'm saying? Something would have been made out of it if she didn't say something. Something would have been made out of it if she did say something. So it's like she can't win for losing, but she's not the only producer on that film.
I think she could have won by not saying anything. I think she could have won. I think because the responsibility, like you said, she didn't write the screenplay. She didn't come up. I don't know at what point she was even brought in to be a part of this movie, but. So she would not have been blamed. Actually, I don't think most people knew she was even involved until Peter Farrelly started throwing her under the bus about it. Because until then,
her name was on everything when it came out. Her name was on everything. So people weren't really paying attention until the movie started to get really good word of mouth. That's when people started to pay attention that she was attached to it. And this is the third film I think she's done in that era of time. So there's all of that. But child, we could talk about Green Book all day long.
We really could.
As we did that night at that event.
Yes.
But I want to segue and talk about this film, The Upside. Now, The Upside kind of upset Aquaman, and everybody's like, oh, Aquaman, oh.
Well, I think upset is not really fair because they just crossed the $1 billion mark. That's huge.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying that, but in terms of weekly box office, it made $19.6 million this week. So it's kind of like. It's like that little engine that could, so to speak.
But it came out over Christmas.
I'm just saying, it's like the little engine that could. But this is what I want to say about The Upside.
So a little engine that could make $1 billion?
Girl, look, that's what I'm saying. Look, because it's a film that people weren't really paying attention to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was one of those films they like, oh, another Kevin Hart movie. Because how many Kevin Hart movies have come out in the last 6 months?
Well, that
a lot.
part, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So people are like, oh, another Kevin Hart movie. So I don't think people anticipated it doing that well. Having said that, I saw this movie and I really loved this movie. And this is why I loved it. I loved it because it wasn't Kevin Hart popping off a bunch of jokes every 2 seconds. It was a true life story of this billionaire who's a quadriplegic, and he hires this one candidate that he knows is probably going to mess up the job, but he ends up being the one person who ends up making him own up to his physical condition, because everybody else was kind of walking on eggshells around him because he has all this money. So nobody wanted to get fired. Nobody wanted to challenge him in that respect. And this man didn't have any, because he's a black man, so he had no problem challenging him.
On parole, right?
Yes, he had no problem speaking up. It's a true story. I see that face. It's a true story. Wait. Let me finish. So cut to the one scene in this movie that really, really spoke volumes to me was this scene. There's a scene where Bryan Cranston's character Philip is livid with Dell, who's played by Kevin Hart, livid. And because he's a quadriplegic, because he can't move anything from the neck down, he can't throw anything, he can't hit him, he can't physically do anything to him to express him being that pissed off. And so Kevin Hart starts going, what do? You want to break something? And he starts breaking stuff. He just starts throwing and breaking stuff in the room. And then Bryan Cranston's character eventually just kind of yells. That resonated with me because you don't know what it's like to be in somebody's shoes, literally. And I never even thought about someone that's a quadriplegic. I never thought about the fact that they're in a position where when they want to be upset or pissed off, they don't have any other way to express it but verbally. That must be really frustrating for somebody that could walk and do everything else before. So that was very that struck my heart. It did. It struck my heart. And I like the story. But I like the story between the two men. I like the fact that at the end of the film, Dell, the brother that's on parole, ends up creating this wheelchair that makes being a quadriplegic a little bit more of a pleasant experience. So I like the fact it wasn't like he was this parolee that, made some money and got a new life and all that. At least he created an invention. At least he contributed to society in a way that you didn't see coming. And I like the fact that it was a true story. It's not a Hollywood invention, made up story. I know, Brooke, I know what you're about to say. Go ahead. Go ahead, let me have it. Because okay. I can feel it coming already. I
mean, okay, so I think that everybody, particularly after Green Book, should just be wary when Hollywood is telling you that this is based on a true story. Like, do your research. Because again, it wasn't until I was able to speak directly to members of Dr. Shirley's family that I understood how terrible Green Book was as a movie and how much it distorted who Dr. Shirley was and disrespected the family and disrespected Dr.
But we talking about
Shirley's
the upside now.
So I'm just saying, I am very wary when I hear this is a true story, particularly if it's like a racial harmony story like this one seems to be. But, I think going back to your point about not understanding what it's like to be a quadriplegic, Bryan Cranston doesn't know what it's like to be a quadriplegic. He played one on TV, and that is something I think that is very upsetting to a lot of quadriplegic actors, a lot of people in the disability community who don't understand why, again, all of these able-bodied actors continue to take roles that could be played by people with disabilities,
To that point, Bryan Cranston actually addressed that point because people... I know. So he actually addressed that point. He actually made a very good point. So as someone who's also an actor, in addition to being a film critic, I can accept and understand both sides of the issue, right? It's the very same frustration that we have when you have somebody like Robert Downey Jr. donning blackface and getting nominated for an Oscar when they could have just hired a black man to do that role. It's the same frustration that Asian people had when Mickey Rooney was in Barefoot in the Park playing an Asian, or the same frustration that Asian people...
Or Scarlett Johansson.
Or the same frustration that people had when Tilda Swinton was...
Exactly.
I get it. But this is the thing. There may be a lot of disabled actors out there, but at the end of the day, it's not fair to hire somebody just because of their color, their ethnicity, their disability, or whatever the situation is. Hire the best actor for the job, period.
Says Bryan Cranston, who is very, very rich already.
He didn't say that. I'm saying that.
Oh, okay.
This is what I'm saying.
Okay, I thought you said, what did Bryan Cranston say? What's his good response?
Bryan Cranston said that, he's an actor. He's hired to act. He's hired to give the best performance possible. And although he understands the frustration with the community of that situation. You know, he's just doing the job that he was hired to do.
But he also could have said no to that job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that is the responsibility of people. It's the responsibility of Scarlett Johansson. It's the responsibility of Emma Stone. All of these people who are getting hired to play
Aloha.
half Hawaiian.
Did you hear her yell? I'm sorry.
It's too late. You didn't give that money back. You didn't donate that money. So bye. I don't want to hear your I'm sorry. Like, apologize in cash. Seriously. Like, that's
you are like the Angela Davis of film. You were like,
hey,
Ungawa.
Hey. Amandla.
You were like,
too. No, seriously.
So I'm not mad at you, but this is why I invited you to come here. Because because this is the thing. Like myself, you have a very definitive opinion and you are not shy about expressing it. And I admire you for that. I appreciate you for that, and I respect you for that. And that is why I asked you to come here. So we all good. It's all good in hood.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so moving on from the upside.
Well, I just want to say,
okay.
Well, I'll say two more quick things about the upside.
Okay.
I think, the reason that I am so passionate about this, about, Green Book, about, the people who are marginalized, like people in the disabled community, is that it's so easy for able-bodied people to kind of dismiss, what's actually happening. There's so many white film critics who are just like, Green Book is the best movie in the world. I don't understand. These accusations of racism aren't even, like, you are not even in a position. You don't understand, like, you don't understand racism in the same way because you don't experience it. With. And so for the abled community to be like, disabled people shouldn't be upset about this. Yes, they should. They don't have the roles. And whenever there's a role created, it always goes to somebody else who's pretending to be like and understand their situation.
Remember Glee, the guy in the wheelchair on Glee spinning around?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same situation.
Exactly. It's been like this for a long time. So, as passionate as we are when people are in blackface, there are black disabled people too. Like the community of marginalized people is very, very big. And we all just, we have to stand up for each other, especially in Hollywood when we're all marginalized in this way. Like we just have to stand up for each other. And I think also, well, even I think saying stand up for each other might be able. So let me I'm working on it. I do think ableism is just one of those frontiers that like we're slow to get together on. So, I think we should
band together.
Advocate for all marginalized people when they're dealing with systemic oppression like able people are. And I think even at the end, this kind of like inspiration porn idea of like, let's all feel better, now that this disabled person has, a better wheelchair. I mean, he's a rich person. I get like, there's so many people, who will never have access, to a wheelchair like that. Like, that's just not something that they're going to be able to afford. So,
But this is the thing. So that dude Dell, him creating a wheelchair like that, I'm pretty sure he's made one that makes it affordable for people. Because you're not going to be somebody that's coming from the hood that has now been put in a good situation and then make a chair that's not accessible to your own people. Like that would be ridiculous.
You might, but I think the bigger issue is how difficult it is for disabled people to live in the world. So instead of making like inventions and stuff like that, like we need to reevaluate the way that our streets are. We need to reevaluate the way that cars are made. We need to reevaluate, the doorways, into our apartment buildings, into our houses. Like those that like make the world more accessible, rather than to create these kind of inventions that make, I guess, abled people feel more comfortable being around disabled people. I think, that would be revolutionary. That would be really, really great. So those are the only two things I wanted to say about that movie.
All right.
We can move on.
Moving on to something else. There's a movie that came out on January 11th. Mm-hmm. It's called A Dog's Way Home.
Okay.
And I loved it because I had a little dog once that my stepfather let the gate open of our house and our dog got out. No. And we looked for this dog forever. And while we were out looking for the dog had found his way home. Wow. And when we came back, the dog was sitting in front of the door waiting for us.
Wow.
So that's why this movie has a particular affection in my heart.
Yeah, it looks sweet.
But it is very sweet, but it catches you off guard because it'll jack you up. Like you will go into the ugly cry. So take some tissue, people.
Like Homeward Bound? Because that was my movie when I was
worse.
little. Wow.
It will have you in the ugly cry for real.
Oh, wow.
So I did a little interview with Bryce Dallas Howard, and people for people that are not familiar with Bryce Dallas Howard, she's Ron Howard's daughter. You know her from Stomping Through the Jungle in Jurassic World. You know her from that horrible character of Hilly in The Help, and now she's the voice.
Oh, was she in?
She was in The Help. She was played that horrible woman in The Help.
That's another. So The Help was the original Green Book, so I have put that movie out of my mind.
I can't stand you right now. So, and now she is doing the voice of Shelby in A Dog's Way Home. So if we could run that beautiful bean footage. Hey, it's your girl Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. Bryce Dallas Howard is known for so many things, like Stomping Through the Jungle in Jurassic Park, being that hateful Hilly in The Help, and now she's in a heartwarming, lovely, fluffy, light film called A Dog's Way Home. Had a chance to sit down and chat with her about that, dogs, and so much more. Take a listen. Oh, you have the best laugh ever.
Oh, no, it's so much. My daughter, the other day, she was in a play, Frog and Toad, and after, this is the first play she's ever been in. Afterwards, she went up to me, she goes, "Mom, your laugh is so crazy." I could hear you the whole show going crazy.
At least I was there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. A Dog's Purpose. As a family, we saw that for the first time. Josh Gad is my children's godfather.
Aww.
And he's wonderful. He's a great godfather. Actually, quite literally, he took my kids to Disney today, and then my husband met him in the afternoon.
Because he's a big old kid himself. He's just like them.
Oh my gosh. We had wanted to watch A Dog's Purpose as a family because he did the voice of the dog. And our cat was getting ill, and she was 17. It was really clear that, her time was near. We showed the kids that movie, and it was really meaningful for them. When our cat eventually did pass, we were able to talk to them about this. When this opportunity came up, I just obviously, it's same author and producers and all of that. The director of the film is this man, Charles Martin Smith, who was in American Graffiti with my dad, and they've been best friends forever. So my dad came to some of my recording sessions to hang out with Charlie. Cool. But I think it's also, getting to do movies and when you're getting to make movies or tell stories, you kind of stay in that space of sort of like feeling like a kid and having an imagination. And I'm directing something right now, and I was directing last night into this morning, and we finished at 2 a.m. I had so much energy, and I was jumping around. I was so excited. My dad came and visited me at like 10 p.m., and it was just, it's so fun what we get to do, and it's so meaningful. And then, of course, when you get to be a part of something that may mean something for children in particular and families, and speak to people who have an important, meaningful relationship with their pets and with animals and all that kind of stuff. When I started doing the voice for Shelby, the movie had been filmed and shot. I watched the film before actually reading the script. Okay. So when I first started watching A Dog's Way Home, I was like, oh, this is, it's like Milo and Otis and the relationship with Big Kitty. And then it really, that storyline played such a huge part in it. And it showed you, it's like it seemed light and, heartwarming and all of that. And then it actually packs a real punch and shows you the connection. Like, as human beings, we are so desperate for connection. And we are living in a world where that is becoming more and more challenging. We are becoming more and more disconnected from one another. This is a character who is completely isolated, who is completely alone, who's experienced the worst of humanity. And he is just desperate. All he wants, all he needs is that friendship, that love, that unconditional love. I think that's just such a powerful story. And then, of course, his passing, and then just, yeah.
I love anything where there's like a talking dog or talking baby. That's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
So if you had a dog, what do you think your dog would say to you?
Well, I have 2 dogs.
So what do you think your dogs would say?
Oh my gosh, Astoria and Arthur. And it's the craziest thing, like when you have a dog, you live with animals, you start to, even though you can't communicate in words, you start to actually hear their thoughts, kind of, right? And you totally have a sense of their personality. And so, yeah, just Story is just incredible. She loves kids, and she is so sweet and gentle. And, when she just gets excited, she gets like very emotional and just cries and stuff. And then our dog, Arthur, we have his kind of inner monologue is like, don't. He's just so, like, you start petting him and he just, like, slides to the floor. Yeah, so, you know, it's great.
What kind of dogs are they?
They're golden retrievers.
Oh,
they're actually both therapy dogs as well. I mean, I think that is, like, the message of the film has to do with the power of love. And that is, oh my gosh, I'll get emotional. That's the holiest thing we have. Yeah, unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, why did I just get choked up? That's crazy. That's crazy. but it is, you know, animals.
Aw, Bryce Dallas Howard getting emotional about them doggies. Thank you, girl. It was a pleasure to sit down and chat with you. A Dog's Way Home was released on January 11th in theaters everywhere and stars Bryce Dallas Howard, Ashley Judd, and Alexandra Shipp. This is your girl, Carla Renata, a.k.a. the Curvy Film Critic. Until the next time, love, peace, and hair grease, y'all. I love me some Bryce Dallas Howard. She is hilarious.
Yeah,
she is kind of she's kind of geeky, but she's very approachable and very real, and she doesn't take herself too seriously. So thank you, girl. Nice chatting with you. Now I want to shift over into awards season since I got another critic here. We had the Spirit Award brunch about a week ago, where Yalitza Aparicio and Marina de Tavera talked to me on the red carpet, and I just want to show this excerpt of them talking with them before we go into talking about the BAFTA nominations.
Great.
Hey, it's your girl Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic, representing Black Hollywood live on the blue carpet for the Film Independent Spirit Awards brunch. Stay tuned. Hola, Yalitza.
Hola.
That's it for my Espanol. I loved Roma. I loved both of you ladies in it. I love the message that it gives of two women sticking together through like the worst of times and the best of times. What did it mean for you guys to be a part of it with that kind of theme running throughout the film?
Dijo que le encanta Roma, que le encanta nuestro trabajo y que le gusta mucho que se trata de dos mujeres que se toman la mano y salen adelante juntas. ¿Qué significó para ti ser parte de esta película en ese sentido de dos mujeres que se abrazan?
Para mí fue muy importante porque fue mostrar toda la fortaleza que tienen las mujeres y cómo todos esos problemas las llevan a unirse y a salir adelante.
She said that for her it was very important to show the strength of women and the way they hold each other and they get through bad times together. And I would say on my behalf that I think it is about everyday women, the women that fight for life every single day and do the work with children, the work in houses, and it's the work we normally don't see or don't acknowledge.
The birthing scene. You know, I got to ask about that birthing scene because Yalitza, muy bueno. Muy bueno. Oh my goodness. Talk to me about the emotions that she had to reach in order to pull that off, because I know from seeing her at other Q&As and things this award season that she is not a trained actress, yes?
Ella está preguntando sobre la escena del parto, que te dijo que muy, muy bien, y quiere saber un poco las emociones por las que pasaste para hacer esa película, siendo que además has dicho que no eres una actriz profesional o no lo eras.
En el momento de esa escena yo desconocía lo que iba a pasar, entonces al momento de entrar al set fue como transportarme a ese momento y olvidarme que era Yalitza y simplemente era Cleo y todo lo fui sintiendo tan real.
She says that when she started to do the scene, she didn't know what was going to happen, that it was during doing the scene that she learned that the baby was born dead. So she just let herself flow through the situation, and it really embraced her, and she went through it.
Okay, and Film Independent Spirit Awards. How excited are you guys to be here for this brunch and to be part of this wonderful organization this year?
¿Y cómo estamos de estar nominados para los Film Independent Awards y estar hoy en este brunch y qué significa que nos haya nominado esta asociación?
Pues es algo maravilloso, quiere decir que la película ha sido muy bien recibida y pues eso es lo que me pone muy contenta.
It's something wonderful. It means that people have really received the film. It's being well received, and it makes me feel really happy. That's what she said. And for me, it's the same thing. I mean, it's so beautiful to have this film that talks about our country and about a community, our indigenous community, that it's being well received all over the world and here today. So we're honored, grateful, and happy.
From one woman of color to two others, thank you. Bless you and good luck this award season.
Thank you.
I love talking to them. And for those listening on iTunes, the voice of the translator was Marina, who plays the woman that employs Yalitza in the film. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate you. There is more to that playlist for the Spirit Awards brunch of other interviews. I talked to Boots Riley. I talked to Deborah Granick from Leave No Trace. I talked to a whole bunch of people. So I will put those links up. I will put those interviews up, and you can check them out at your leisure at Black Hollywood Live, the playlist Spirit Awards Brunch 2019. All right, so leading into the awards season, they just announced the BAFTA award nominations. I have to say I was a little disappointed with some of them, but let's just go down the list. So for Best Supporting Actor, and you know, by this point in the conversation, the same names start to pop up over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So, for Best Supporting Actor, it is Adam Driver for Black Klansman, Mahershala Ali for Green Book, Sam Rockwell for Vice, Timothy Chalamet for Beautiful Boy, and Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? I talked to him at the Spirit Awards brunch too. He's hilarious. What are your feelings about that category?
I'm trying to see what the issue is with Coleman Domingo and If Beale Street Could Talk. He was phenomenal, and he's been totally overlooked this entire award season, and I don't understand that.
As is Brian Tyree Henry.
Absolutely, Brian Tyree Henry. Yeah. I thought for sure that he would be,
and Stefan James.
Stefan James. Well, I mean, he's a lead actor,
but
for
still,
sure. And,
lead or not,
all
he's
of
been
them,
overlooked
all of
too.
the actors. The only person that's been, awarded or even nominated, really, from the cast has been Regina King, and she was phenomenal in that movie, but she was not phenomenal by herself. It is, every part of that movie is phenomenal, and these actors are definitely being overlooked, and I have some thoughts about why.
Okay, share.
So I do think, this is a movie that's based very faithfully, except for the ending, but otherwise very faithfully on the novel by James Baldwin.
And you're speaking of If Beale Street Could Talk.
If Beale Street Could Talk,
okay.
Yes.
To be clear.
So, yes. And, there are several times in that movie where they speak very frankly about racism and about the role of white people in the lives and the oppression of Black people. And I think that is unpopular. And Barry Jenkins has been asked about that. He's been asked about whether, he was concerned about whether that would impact him or impact the reception to the movie. And, he basically said, he didn't care one way or the other, which I think is great, to stay faithful to the vision and to stay faithful to the adaptation of the novel. But I definitely think that it is playing a role, particularly for Brian Tyree Henry, because he's one of the people that outright calls out systemic racism.
First of all, Brian Tyree Henry was in 7 movies last year. 7.
Right? Incredible.
7 movies.
And he didn't get anything
and
for
he
anything?
didn't get any love for anything.
That's just
the only film
criminal.
of his that's getting any kind of love, but not necessarily particularly for him, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because he's voicing one of the characters in that as well.
Yeah, he's the father.
Child, please. Okay, so of those supporting actors, who do you think might run away with the BAFTA? I think it might be Richard E. Grant.
So,
Because let's keep in mind that this is the British.
Yeah.
These are the British Academy Awards. So sometimes the British acknowledge their own and acknowledge people that other people won't acknowledge, and sometimes they fall in line.
As they should.
So I'm thinking for this particular category, they're probably going to give it to Richard E. Grant, because he's been around since Christ was a child, and he's really good in that movie.
Okay.
That's what I'm going with. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so for Best Actor is Steve Coogan for Stan and Ollie, Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born, Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody, Viggo Mortensen for Green Book, and Christian Bale in Vice. Okay, so now I got something to say about this category. So, rolling around. Just as my girl Juliet told me not to do. I'm like, hey, I'm skating on the set. Anyway, Steve Coogan and Stan and Ollie, that was a really good movie, and people are overlooking it because it is what it is. It's about, Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, 2 silent film stars who eventually kind of fell off of their stardom and then tried to find their way back to their glory days, and they unsuccessfully did so. But Steve Coogan in that movie is really, really good, and I don't understand why his studio didn't push more for him, because it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And this year there's a lot of really good films, so there's that. I feel like Bradley Cooper is starting to get dissed, which is really kind of interesting to me. I kind of loved him in A Star Is Born, but clearly I'm the only one. Rami Malek and Bohemian Rhapsody might be the person to walk away with this, I think.
Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen he's getting recognized for his role, but he's not winning anything.
And I think that has a lot to do with his
the controversy.
N-word situation, going around saying the N-word on a panel for the movie, and also his just really gross disrespect of the family. Like, nobody thinks that's classy. So.
And then Christian Bale might walk away with it.
He won Golden Globe, so.
Yeah, he might walk away with it. Now, I didn't care much for Vice, that film. I didn't care much for that movie because I liked the director Adam McKay, but I felt like this felt a lot like The Big Short, and The Big Short was better to me. So there's that. The best film is between The Favorite, Black Klansman, Green Book, A Star Is Born, and Roma. I'm thinking The Favorite's probably going to win.
Well, yes, if it's the BAFTAs, it should win.
Okay, and there's that. Moving on. The Rising Star Award is between Jessie Buckley, Letitia Wright, Lakeith Stanfield, Barry Keoghan, and Cynthia Erivo. You know who I would really kind of love to see walk away with this?
Who?
Of course, I'm like Issa Rae says, I'm rooting for everybody black.
Yeah.
So I would love to see either Cynthia, Lakeith, or Letitia run away with it. But if I had to choose between the three, I would love to see Lakeith run away with it.
I want Letitia, but I mean, I really, I think Kiki Lane and I think Stephan James were snubbed. If they're not going to be up for lead actor and actress, then they should have at least been for Rising Star. Like, this is Kiki Lane's first movie, which is
bananas.
Wild to me.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Best Supporting Actress is Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz, both for The Favorite, Claire Foy for First Man, Margot Robbie for Mary Queen of Scots, and Amy Adams for Vice. I was not feeling Amy Adams in Vice. I feel like Saoirse Ronan got robbed for Mary Queen of Scots. I don't know why Margot Robbie got nominated for that. She's good. We love you at the Curvy Critic, Miss Margot Robbie, but yeah. Anyway, and I think either Rachel and Emma Stone will cancel each other out, and maybe Claire Foy might win. This is a very tricky category.
I think they love Claire Foy.
Yeah, I think they do because of the crown and everything. But Claire Foy was the best thing about that film, the First Man. Who's mixing up my black and white people? So sad. Best Actress, Lady Gaga for Stars Born, Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me, Olivia Colman, The Favorite, Viola Davis, Widows, Glenn Close for The Wife. I think it's very interesting that the only nomination for Widows came for Viola Davis.
Yeah.
At the BAFTAs for Widows. I find it very interesting that Glenn Close is being nominated for The Wife, and I'm like, who's seen this movie?
She won the Golden Globe.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm like, but
winning.
who's seen this movie? I don't understand. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't receive the screener.
That's what I'm saying. So there's that. I love the Melissa McCarthy and Can You Ever Forgive Me? I love Lady Gaga. I've made no secret about that. You know, I came back from TIFF screaming about her. And I love Olivia Colman in The Favorite, and she won a Golden Globe as well. So that's going to be another tricky category, I think.
But this is Viola's first nomination for this movie. So.
It's her first nomination for the movie, but it's the only nomination that the movie got. They didn't even nominate Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
So they didn't nominate the movie or Steve McQueen. So I'm like, okay, that's really
interesting. And the
direction
was very interesting. Like I was paying attention to like the craft of making that movie. I thought that was really interesting. So that's kind of disappointing.
So for the sake of time, I'm just going to fly through some things real quick and then close us out. But Best British Film, Bohemian Rhapsody, Beast, Stan and Ollie, The Favorite, McQueen, and You Were Never Really Here. I saw all of these films. I thought all of these films were really good, and I honestly can't imagine which one of them will win. But if I had to pick, I'm going to guess it's going to be between The Favorite and Bohemian Rhapsody. But I wish McQueen would get some love because that was a really excellent documentary about the designer Steve McQueen. So there's that.
Well, Bohemian Rhapsody also has a lot of the same issues that Green Book has as far as, you know, the inaccuracies and the kind of like disrespect for the legacy. So, you know, I'd be fine if they don't win anymore.
You're funny. So Best Film Music, Terrence Blanchard for Black Klansman, Mary Poppins Returns, Mark Shaman, Isla Dogs, Alexandra Desplat, A Star Is Born, Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper, Lucas Nelson, and The Promise of the Real, and my boy Nicholas Bertel for If Beale
Yes.
Street Could Talk.
All those need to go. Beale Street needs to win.
I think Nicholas Bertel's gonna walk away
I
with that.
hope
He's been
so.
doing really well this season.
Yeah.
So you guys, for the rest of the nominations for the BAFTAs, go to BAFTA.org and check those out. The Critics' Choice Awards are happening right now in real time. So I'm gonna go over here and refresh this page to see who has won. Thus far, the nominees for Young Performer were Elsie Fisher for 8th Grade, Ed Oxenbould for Wildlife, Millicent Simmons for A Quiet Place, Amanda Stenberg for The Hate You Give, Thomas and McKenzie for Leave No Trace, and Sonny, please forgive me, honey, if I butcher your name, Suljic is what I think it is, for mid-90s. And the winner was Elsie Fisher for 8th Grade. I kind of loved Elsie Fisher for 8th Grade. She was kind of hilarious. But I'm kind of salty that Amanda Stenberg didn't get more love for The Hate You Give. And she was, we had our award ceremony. The Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society had our awards this past Monday. And she was one of our winners, one of our breakthrough people. And I told her, I'm like, you know, I told her, as one woman of color to another, I need for you to know that I see you, I respect you, and I think you did a fantabulous job, and I'm so sorry
great.
it's not getting more love.
Great.
So I told her that. Mahershala Ali won for Green Book. Let's see who else has won.
Long eye roll.
I know. A Quiet Place has won for Sci-Fi Horror Movie. Henry Winkler won for Barry for Supporting Actor in a Comedy. Regina King has won again
Yay, Regina.
for Supporting Actress for If Beale Street Could Talk. I told her in Toronto she's going to get that Oscar. I can see it coming.
She
It's
needs to.
happening.
She needs
It's
to.
happening.
We'll name it.
Christian Bale won for Vice. Tandy Newton won Best Supporting Actress in a Drama. Shallow won Best Song. Darren Criss won for The Assassination of Gianni Versace. The action movie was Mission Impossible Fallout, and they are still going on as we speak. So we will talk about the rest of those winners next week when Scott comes back, because he is attending. So I'm sure he has a lot to say about that when he hits us back next Sunday, the 19th of January. But girl, Brooke Obie, we have talked for an hour.
We have.
And I'm so glad you came here.
Thank you for having
You gotta
me.
come back. I
would
love
love
when
to.
you come here and you debate and you are not shy and you do not back down. And I love you for
Let's
that.
do it. Let me know.
I love you for that. So
Thank
tell the
you.
people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at brookeobie.com. And all the social media handles are Brooke Obie, OBIE.
Cool. I am your host, your girl Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. You can find me across all social media platforms at the Curvy Critic. You can catch me right after this at the General Hospital After Show for AfterBuzz TV. And until next week when Scott Menzel comes back, join us then. Take care. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all. Until the next time. Bye.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.